everybody. I'm Jesse, and welcome to another edition of Gen X Thinks Deep Dive. And today we're going to talk about trusting the science. And start this off by going back to the 70s, and I've never forgotten this. This has always put an innate distrust in me of science, scientists, however you want to put it. Most of y'all will remember, some of y'all that watch this may be too young, but back in the 70s, Big Tobacco had the highest paid scientists in the world. They had an army of scientists that were cranking out papers about how nicotine was not addictive and how all the carcinogenic stuff in tobacco did not harm us. It didn't cause cancer, didn't harm us in any way, right? And all these scientists, supposedly the scientists that we're supposed to trust, the ones that are just out there working hard to better mankind, give us a better place to live, they all produced these studies that were complete lies. They told us that cigarettes and tobacco were not harmful to us in any way. They testified in court on the side of Big Tobacco because Big Tobacco was sued by a bunch of people who had cancer and were blaming it on tobacco. The tobacco companies had this army of scientists that they had represent or testify in court that their findings showed that nicotine was not addictive and cigarettes and tobacco were not harmful to human beings at all. Now, the kicker to this is that once Big Tobacco saw that was going to fall, that whole business was going to fall, right? They bought food companies. The same people that are running our food now, are producing our food, were the same people that were producing cigarettes back in the 60s, 70s. And they moved their scientists over to figure out how to make food addictive. And this is all stuff you can look up. This is nothing, I'm not making stuff up. I've been called conspiracy theorist just by relaying facts. These are just facts. These aren't conspiracy theorists. Just because I don't trust these people that are lying to me just means I'm not a complete gullible fool. That doesn't make me a conspiracy theorist. That's where this starts. All right. Now you move into the climate issue. Our big hot topic of today is the climate, right? Climate change. It was global warming, and then they changed it to climate change because the globe wasn't warming and all this stuff. It's still supposed to be warming, but they just rebranded it. Just like a shoe company would rebrand a pair of shoes to sell more. So they rebranded it. And as you'll see, probably on this video, but I have a couple of videos that a lot of y'all have already seen. That flag, it says on there, on that flag, when YouTube flags my videos just for saying the words global warming or climate change. But on that flag, it says that it's a proven fact that human beings are the main drivers of climate change. All right? This is just supposed to be scientific fact. No arguments. It's been proven. Now, I've read about several scientists who've done studies to dispute that, but of course, they're shouted down and called conspiracy theorists. But now, recently, they found out that the oceans are cooling, and they're cooling at an exponential rate, was the word that I read, the word that they used, an exponential rate. And the scientists are baffled. They have no idea why. Why would the oceans cool? Well, by my YouTube flag, it should be because of human activity. That's the only thing that could do it. According to science, what else can you blame it on now? You've been telling us for decades now that human activity drives all climate change. So if it just because it changes in the way that you don't want it to, now you're baffled. That's the kind of stuff that makes me question. The kind of stuff that makes me say, I think they might be lying to me. There's been all kinds of studies now that the trees love this carbon that's into the air, that's going into the air. The trees love it. The tree plants are flourishing. That life, organic life, does a lot better in a warmer climate. Ice age will kill off a big part of the population. So we don't want to get too cold. Nobody likes shoveling snow. So anyway, there's that. And you can look that up. You can read the articles yourself. The oceans are cooling. And I know what the word exponential means, but I don't know what they mean by it in that article that I read. But I suppose it means fast. It's cooling off pretty fast. So fast that it's got scientists scratching their heads and wondering what they can blame it on, trying to figure out what to blame it on, because it can't be human activity. And then the next topic I'll discuss is the Big Bang. Now, I've been told my entire life, I've been taught that it's a fact. The Big Bang happened 13.8 billion years ago, and it's a fact, right? It's just what we're taught. We're not taught that it might have happened, that it's believed to have happened. I was taught that it's a fact. This is how it went. They've done the studies, and this is what, okay, scientists. The problem now is that they've discovered a galaxy that's, what would that be, 14.2 billion years old or something? It's several billion years older than the Big Bang. So that just shoots their entire theory in the foot. They got to start over from scratch. Literally. Now, they don't get on TV and blast this stuff all over the place, and I mean, you got to do some digging. You got to be interested in this kind of stuff to find out about it. But it's happened. The Big Bang is it. The Big Bang is just gone away as far as, in the upper echelon of the scientific community. They know that it didn't happen 13.8 billion years ago. They don't know what happened. That whole thing they've been feeding us, the whole thing they've been teaching us about for the last, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 years, it was all completely wrong, because they found one galaxy that shot their whole idea in the foot, shot it out of the water. So my question is, why do they tell us this stuff like it's fact when it definitely isn't? Cigarettes aren't good for us. Humans do not drive the climate with their activity. And the Big Bang did not happen 13.8 billion years ago. And all these things are proven scientifically now. I'm not just saying this stuff. This stuff, scientists are figuring this stuff out. But they taught us the other way for years as if it was fact. They've been telling us that humans have been driving climate change and pounding that through the media and every outlet they can find as if it is a fact. Now, all of a sudden, it's starting to cool off at an exponential rate, and they have no idea why. So and that tells you that they had no idea why it was warming up, if it was. You look at the history, and the hottest days were in, 1921 and 1889. It was hotter 100 years ago. So I don't know. But that's the sign now. Do you trust the new science, or do you trust the old BS science that's been proven false? Do you trust whatever the science is, the narrative that they're pushing, that they want you to try to get you to do something? The older I get, and the more I learn about stuff, and the more they learn about stuff, the more the scientific community learns about stuff, the less I trust them. And this channel is Gen X Thinks. So I'm not trying to prove a point or trying to get you to believe anything that you don't want to believe. Believe whatever you want. I'm just suggesting that you think about it. Do some research, read a little bit about this stuff that I've mentioned here, and find out for yourself. Don't take my word for it. The information's out there. Think about it yourself and come up with your own conclusion. because that's what school doesn't teach us to do. They don't teach us to think for ourselves. They just teach us to remember what the science tells us, to trust the science. And there's no telling, those are just three key big topics. How many different ways has science been wrong? How many different ways that butter was bad for us and we should eat margarine? That was scientific. And how many other ways is science wrong? Is it being manipulated by companies like Big Tobacco paying a scientist to come up with a paper that agrees with their views? Or for whatever reason, scientists are working people who need to pay their bills, and they need to do what their employer wants them to do, or they'll get fired. That's just common sense. I'm a car manufacturer and I go to work and I build log cabins with Lincoln logs, I'll get fired. I'm supposed to be building cars. I'm just suggesting that maybe, just maybe, there are times that we should think for ourselves instead of blindly trusting the science. Maybe we should try that once in a while. And I'll leave you there for now. If you like this episode, please like, subscribe, and comment down below. If you'd like to support the channel, you can do so by tapping on the super thanks button down below this video. I appreciate it. Or you can head over to Buy Me a Cup of Coffee and buy me a cup of coffee. I'll put that link down in the description. There's also some cool Gen X gear over at Redbubble, and I'll put that link down in the description too. There's coffee mugs and stickers and different cool stuff like that. And if you don't want to, or you cannot support the channel in any of those ways, you can always do so by sharing these videos on your social media. I appreciate that. That helps out a lot. Thank you very much. And if you have any ideas for future episodes of Gen X Thinks Deep Dive, please put those down in the comments, or you can email me, and the email address is on the channel page. And as always, stay frosty, Gen X, and I'll see you on the next one.